start till noon. Okay, it's 12 noon. It's May 2nd, 2022. This is a regular assembly meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Jay,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Chelsea, Mark,
Here.
Jeff, Bob,
Here.
David.
Here. Okay, we have a full assembly in the chambers today. It's now time for the voluntary pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on today's agenda is a land auction. And it's on two pieces of property, 700 Sandy Beach Road and 1015 Sandy Beach Road. We have received applications from people to bid on these two pieces of property. The two parcels will be sold today via outcry auction with myself presiding. In order to bid on either property, prospective bidder must be 18 years of age or older, must have a signed auction participation agreement filed with Clerk Thompson, and be physically present in the assembly chambers or have someone here representing you. So what we will do, we have two envelopes. We don't know what order the properties will be bid on. I will just open one, and that's the property we will start with. Once everyone is ready to announce to make the bidders are asked to stand, be recognized by the mayor, and state their bid. Bid shall be made in increments no less than $100. So like I said earlier, I'll choose from the two envelopes, and then we'll start with that piece of property. Request bids. I will request bids until no more are offered. When bidding appears to be done, I will call for any other bids 3 times. If no more bids are received, I will announce the high bid for the lot and move to the next auction. So with that being said, we'll just take the envelope that was on top. First piece of property we will auction off today is 700 Sandy Beach Road. The minimum bid is $77,500. Bear with me. I hope this is a smooth process. I've done this once or twice in the last 14 years. So if there's any clarification needed or anything, Clerk Thompson will step in. So with that being said, we're bidding on 700 Sandy Beach Road, minimum bid $77,500. Please stand and state, yeah. Okay. First bid is $77,500 for 700 Sandy Beach Road. Are there any other bids? State your name and what your bid is, sir. Okay, we have Mark Taylor at $80,000. Any other interested parties, please stand and state your next bid. Okay, we have a current bid of $82,000 for parcel 700 Sandy Beach Road. Okay, we have a current bid from Mark Taylor for $83,000. We have another bid from Tanya Somerville for $83,500 for 700 Sandy Beach Road. Taylor has bid $84,500 for the parcel at 700 Sandy Beach Road. We have a current bid of $85,500 from Tanya Somerville. Okay, $86,500, Mr. Taylor? Is that what your bid was? Okay. Any other bids? Okay, we have a bid of 86,600. Are there any other bids?
Mark Taylor, 87,000.
Bid of $87,000 from Mark Taylor. Bid for $87,100 for 700 Sandy Beach Road from Tanya Somerville.
Mark Taylor, $87,500.
Mark Taylor has bid $87,500. Have another current bid, $87,600.
Mark Taylor, $88,000.
Have a bid from Mark Taylor of $88,000. Any other bids? We have a bid from Tanya Somerville of $88,100. Any other bids on 700?
Mark Taylor, $88,500.
Have a bid for $88,500 from Mark Taylor. We have a bid from Tanya Somerville for $89,100.
Mark Taylor, $89,500.
Mark Taylor has bid $89,500. I believe the last bid was 89.5. Okay, Tanya Somerville has bid $89,600.
Mark Taylor was $90,000.
Mark Taylor has bid $90,000. Tanya Somerville has bid $90,100 for 700 Sandy Beach Road.
Mark Taylor will go to $90,750.
Taylor has bid $90,750. Tanya Somerville has bid $91,100.
Mark Taylor, $91,000.
92,000, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Mark Taylor has bid $92,000. Current bid is $92,500 by Tanya Somerville.
Taylor will do $93,000.
Mark Taylor has the current bid of $93,000. Bid is $93,300 by Tanya Somerville.
Taylor will do $9,500.
Mark Taylor has bid $93,500 for this parcel. $93,500 is the current bid. Current bid is $93,700 by Tanya Somerville.
Mark Taylor, $93,900.
Current bid is $93,900 by Mark Taylor. Current bid is $94,000 by Tanya Somerville.
Mark Taylor will do $94,500.
Current bid is $94,500 by Mark Taylor. Current bid by Tanya Somerville is $94,800. Are there any other bids? $94,800 bid by Tanya Somerville is going once. The current bid is $94,800. You have to go up by $100 minimum. $94,800 is the current bid by Tanya Somerville. The bid has to go up in increments of at least $100. We have a bid by Doug Coral of $94,900. Tanya Somerville has bid $96,000 for the lot at 700 Sandy Beach Road. $96,500 is the current bid by Doug Coral. Tanya Somerville has a bid of $96,700. Doug Coral has put in a bid of $97,000 for 700 Sandy Beach Road. Current bid by Tanya Somerville is $97,100. Doug Coral has placed a bid of $97,300. Current bid by Tanya Somerville is $97,400. Doug Coral, $97,500. We have a bid from Tanya Somerville for $98,000 for 700 Sandy Beach Road. Doug Coral has put in a bid of $98,100. Tanya Somerville has a bid of $98,200. We have a bid from Doug Coral for $98,300. Bid by Tanya Somerville for $98,500 is the current bid for 700 Sandy Beach Road. Doug Coral has put in a bid of $98,600. Tanya Somerville has bid $98,700. Current bid by Doug Coral is $99,000. Tanya Somerville has put in a bid of $99,300. Doug Coral has a bid of $99,500. Tanya Somerville for $99,600. Have a bid by Doug Coral for $100,000. $100,500. Tanya Somerville has put in a bid of $100,500. Doug Coral has a bid of $100,700. Tanya Somerville has placed a bid of $101,000. Doug Coral has posted a bid of $102,000. Current bid is $102,200 by Tanya Somerville. Current bid by Doug Coral is $102,500. Current bid is $102,500. Current bid by Tanya Somerville is $103,000. Doug Coral has bid $103,200. Tanya Somerville has placed a bid of $103,500. Doug Coral, $103,700. $103,900 is the current bid by Tanya Somerville. Doug Coral has placed a bid of $104,500. Tanya Somerville, $105,000. Doug Coral has placed a bid of $105,500. Tanya Somerville has placed a bid of $106,000 for parcel at 700 Sandy Beach Road. Doug Coral has posted a bid of $106,500. Tanya Somerville has a bid of $106,600. Doug Coral has placed a bid of $107,000. Somerville has placed a bid of $107,500. Doug Coral has a bid of $107,700. $7,900. Doug Coral has placed a bid of $108,500. Somerville has a bid of $108,900. Doug Coral has placed a bid of $109,000. Somerville has placed a bid of $109,300. Doug Coral has a $109,500 bid. Current bid by Tanya Somerville is $109,700. Doug Coral has a bid of $110,000. Bill has bid $110,500. Doug Coral has posted a bid of $111,000. Tanya Somerville's bid is $111,100. Doug Coral has bid $111,200. $111,200. Tanya Somerville has posted a bid of $112,000. $112,500 is the current bid by Doug Coral. $112,700 is the current bid. Doug Coral has posted a bid of $113,000. $113,500 is the current bid by Tanya Somerville. $14,000 is the new bid by Doug Coral. Bid is $114,500 by Tanya Somerville. Current bid by Doug Coral is $115,000 for 700 Sandy Beach Road. Somerville has upped the bid to $115,500. Doug Coral has the current bid of $116,000. $16,500 is the current bid by Tanya Somerville. Current bid by Doug Coral is $117,000. $117,300 is the current bid by Tanya Somerville. $117,300 going once, Current bid by Doug Coral is $117,500. Somerville has put in a bid of $117,600. Doug Coral has posted a bid of $118,000 for the property at 700 Sandy Beach Road. Bid is $118,500 by Tanya Somerville. Current bid from Doug Coral is $119,000. New bid is $119,500 by Tanya Somerville. Doug Coral has posted a bid of $120,000. $122,000. Tanya Somerville has placed a bid for $122,000 for the property at 700 Sandy Beach Road. $122,000 going once, $122,000 going twice. Property is sold to Tanya Somerville for $122,000. And that property is at 700 Sandy Beach Road. And Clerk Thompson will contact you after today's assembly meeting for signing the contract of sale. That piece, if you can hold it. Okay, next property up for sale is the only other one that we're bidding today, but I'll open it on. Just look like Price is Right or something.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Carl.
I'll contact you later if that's okay. Sorry. I don't-
Yeah, I could see it. from
Oh,
here,
thank you,
Steve, so
sorry.
maybe-
Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, the next piece of property up for sale today by the Borough is located at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. The minimum bid for this piece of property is $168,000, $168,800. We'll open the bidding. You stand, state your name and your bid. Mark Tasillo has bid $170,000. Okay, and I missed your name, ma'am? Linda, okay. Linda has bid $172,000 for the property at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Mark Tasillo has bid $175,000 for the piece of property at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Can you say your last name so I don't get it? Millard? Okay, got it. Okay, Linda Millard has bid $180,000 for the parcel at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Mark Tasillo has bid $185,000 for this parcel. Linda Millard has bid $190,000 for the parcel at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. $190 is the current bid, yes. Mark Tasillo has bid $195,000 for this parcel. $195 was the current. Oh, okay. Linda Millard has bid $200,000 for the piece of property at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Mark Tasillo, $205,000. Current bid by Linda Millard is $207,000. Mark Tasillo has a bid of $210,000. Linda Millard has a bid of $213,000. Mark DeCillo has placed a bid of $215,000. Linda Millard has placed a bid of $218,000. Mark DeCillo, $220,000. Linda Millard, $225,000. Mark DeCillo, $230,000. Linda Millard has placed a bid of $235,000 for the property at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Mark DeCillo has placed a bid of $240,000 for this property. Linda Millard has bid $244,000 for the piece of property at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Mark DeCillo, $245,000 is the current bid. Millard has a bid of $248,000. Mark DeCillo, $250,000. Millard, $252,000. Mark DeCillo, $255,000 is the current bid. Current bid by Linda Millard, $258,000. Mark DeCillo, his bid, $260,000. $262,000? The current bid by Linda Millard is $262,000. Mark DeCillo has bid $265,000. $267,000 is the current bid by Linda Millard. $270,000 is the current bid by Mark DeCillo. Millard has bid $275,000. $75,000 going once. Mark DeCillo has bid $276,000. Current bid is $277,000 by Linda Millard. Current bid by Mark DeCillo is $280,000. Current bid is $281,000 by Linda Millard. Mark DeCillo has bid $282,000. $283,000 is the current bid for the property at 1015 Sandy Beach Road. Mark DeCillo has bid $284,000. $285,500 is the current bid by Linda Millard. $285,500 going once. $285,500 going twice. Property is sold to Linda Millard at 1015 Sandy Beach Road for $285,500. Thanks, everybody, for your participation today. And we'll take a few seconds here before we start the rest of the meeting in case Clerk Thompson needs to talk with Mrs. Millard. Okay, so,
I think we're good. I'll just contact them later.
okay, perfect. Okay, back on to the rest of our borough business.
just have tissue paper with it.
Sure. Okay, the Borough land auction is over, and that moves us on to approval of minutes. We have two sets of meeting minutes for approval. April 4th, 2022 and April 18th, 2022. I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second. If there's all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented to us for those two meetings, say aye. Aye. Okay, now we'll move on. Item 5, amendment and approval of the meeting agenda for today. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented unless there are amendments.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion's been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Stanton Gregor. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those minutes, we'll move forward with the agenda as presented to us. We have two public hearings today. The first public hearing is on ordinance 2022-05. This is an ordinance updating chapter 14.04.420 of the municipal code entitled Water Rates, Schedule and Fees. Any public testimony on this ordinance should be given at this time. Is there anyone calling in, Clerk Thompson, for this?
We do have some people on the line. I see no hands up and no one signed up to speak under the public hearing at this point.
Okay, with that being said, if there's no one calling in, there's no one in the audience who would like to participate in this public hearing. So the first public hearing for ordinance 2022-05 is now closed. We'll open the next public hearing. It's for ordinance 2022-06. This is an ordinance updating various sections of chapter 14.08 of the municipal code entitled Sewer Utility. Same as the last public hearing, this is the time to testify during the public hearing. No hands up on the screen and no one in the audience. So this public hearing for ordinance 2022-06 is also closed. Bid awards, there are no bids. Bid awards today, I should say. So that brings us to item 8, and that's persons to be heard related to items on today's agenda. So Clerk Thompson, is there anyone that would like to speak to items related?
Yes, we do have Rebecca Knight on the line. And when she is finished, she has someone else that would like to separately speak, but just under her same Zoom login.
Sounds good. And I'm going to ask the Vice Mayor to keep the time. We have a 5-minute time limit. And if you're getting close to that, I will make you aware that your time's almost up. So Mrs. Knight, you have the floor.
Hi, just to make sure, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Becky Knight. I request that you oppose S 3269, the so-called landless legislation, and especially notify the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee of your position. Failure to act is tantamount to full endorsement of this highly consequential and precedent-setting legislation. Immediately following passage of the 2012 70,000-acre Sealaska bill, Senator Murkowski proclaimed that, quote, some 43 years after passage of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, the federal government will finally finish paying the debt we owe natives for the settlement of their Aboriginal land claims, end quote. Representative Don Young echoed that. Shortly after this assurance, Senator Murkowski introduced a similar version of this landless bill. The precedent-setting act would gift over 115,000 acres of public land to 5 private for-profit corporations, including valuable taxpayer-funded public infrastructure worth hundreds of millions of dollars, including multiple recreation sites, hiking trails, off-highway vehicle trails, open roads, and an estimated 12 marine access facilities. The decades-long cost of timber stand improvement and thinning would also be gifted. Additionally, outfitter guide activity currently authorized under special use permits within or adjacent to more than half of the selected parcels would be affected. Access issues to corporate landless lands are a huge concern. This, while full access to the Tongass National Forest is enjoyed by all. $12.5 million or 5 grants in the amount of $2.5 million would be appropriated to each new corporation for startup cost. The proposed legislation is deeply flawed, beginning with the premise that natives in 5 Southeast communities are landless. As repeatedly recognized by high-level agency officials when similar legislation was introduced, quote, "There are no landless natives in Southeast Alaska. Natives in the 5 landless communities are enrolled as at-large shareholders in Sea Alaska Corporation, have received fair and substantial equitable benefit of the original ANCSA settlement, and the dividends received by these at-large shareholders substantially exceed those paid by the regional corporations to village shareholders," end quote. Any tweak to the legislation is simply a cosmetic change in a futile effort to disguise its fundamental failings. Enactment of S 3269 in any form would be irresponsible. There has been no current hard look at the impacts of the bill on communities, taxpayers, the environment, the Tongass Management Plan, and more. Senator Murkowski has been largely AWOL to the 5 affected communities that she represents. She never responded to the questions posed by the Petersburg Borough and allowed, Sea Alaska representatives conflicted out responses to suffice. Those responses were incomplete and dodged many of the questions. This legislation is really about supplying yet more, the best of the rest of remaining and easily accessible carbon sequestering old growth timber to Viking Lumber and Alcan Inc., a 100% in the round timber exporter. Many of these cherry picked lands would be clear cut from Tidewater to Alpine under the lax Alaska Forest Resources and Practices Act. Other major concerns remain completely unaddressed. For example, first, why must the Tongass National Forest bear the brunt of land selections while state mental health trust and university lands are not also asked to share in that burden? Second, the landless groups assume an entitlement to one township or 24,040 acres each based on the other corporations in Southeast. However, had the 5 corporations been included in ANCSA, Congress may have allotted less than one township each to each of those corporations, or perhaps it would have been allotted to Sea Alaska on less than a 1-to-1 ratio with each village and urban corporation. It is notable that eligible native enrollment in these communities varies widely. However, each corporation would receive equal acreage, raising the basis for yet more claims of inequity. Third, why aren't the 5 communities asked to settle their dispute with Sea Alaska Corporation?
Excuse me, Mrs. Knight, you've reached the 5-minute timeline. Can you please wrap it up?
Yeah, just quoting Sylvia Baca, Jim Lyons, recognition that 5 landless communities would reopen the entire settlement scheme of ANCSA and result in a never-ending, extremely costly and unattainable effort to effect total equality of treatment among all natives in all communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony today. And who is next in line, Clerk Thompson?
I believe it is Eric Lee.
Okay, Eric Lee, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're coming in clear.
Okay, this is Eric Lee representing myself, and my comments are regarding the Natives Without Land Bill S 3269. My first comment regards a question submitted to Murkowski some time ago by our assembly, which reads, if this legislation is enacted, will the newly formed corporations refund the in lieu benefits they have received since 1970? The question and response are a little difficult for the layperson to understand, so in an effort to provide clarity, I will share the way the issue was explained to me by someone who was directly involved in the drafting of the original language in the Alaska Native Settlement Act that covers revenue sharing. The person I corresponded with stated that it was recognized at the time that the Native people who were not eligible to be enrolled in any Native corporation needed compensation just as those who did qualify. So in lieu of receiving land of their own from which they could generate revenues through resource extraction, they would receive compensation from revenues generated by the resource extraction on lands qualifying corporations did receive. This revenue sharing arrangement was considered fair and equitable at the time, as it was recognized that under this agreement, the without land shareholders would generally receive dividend checks that would be larger than their corporation shareholder counterparts, and this would make up for them not receiving land. The person I corresponded with also said the language in ANCSA regarding revenue sharing resource extraction monies was drafted before the timber and oil booms started in the 1970s. The timber and oil booms that began shortly after ANCSA was passed resulted in generating much greater compensation to the without land shareholders than had been anticipated at the time the revenue sharing language was written. So this arrangement has worked quite well for the shareholders who did not receive land. However, an accounting of that compensation really should be established as a starting point for additional compensation that would be considered. Makes sense. A good related question would be, does this bill provide for the 5 new village corporations to pay into the revenue sharing agreement of ANCSA? To be equitable to the native corporations that contributed revenues into the ANCSA revenue sharing agreement by the depletion of their timber and oil, the 5 new village corporations should be required to contribute under the same agreement. These are important issues because it should be remembered that there were many costly lawsuits between the native corporations up north that were formed under ANCSA over collection and distribution of resource extraction revenues. Those lawsuits went on for 20 years, from about mid 70s through well, about maybe early 90s or something, and resulted in bankruptcy of some of those corporations. So this is a potential area of conflict that has yet to be considered. Another aspect to be considered is the precedent-setting nature of this bill, which does not abide by perhaps the most important aspect of ANCSA, which is the criteria for village corporation eligibility. There are more than 100 villages in Alaska that did not meet that minimum criteria of ANCSA. So a precedent-setting bill could have far-reaching consequences for all of Alaska. This bill perpetuates the 2 biggest problems created by ANCSA, problems that have caused great inequity and dissatisfaction among Sealaska shareholders. One is the basic corporate model that ANCSA creates, which mandates that maximum profits be made from the land. This corporate mandate is what led to the deforestation of almost all the land the village corporations in Southeast Alaska received under ANCSA. The short documentary, Huna's Legacy, which can be seen on YouTube, documents this well. The other main problem with ANCSA is that it led to the consolidation of wealth and power within the families who had corporate board members and administrative staff in their families. The website Sealaska Shareholders Underground has many posts and comments attesting to this inequity. It was created by ANCSA. This bill creates the same corporate model and does not address the problem of consolidation of wealth and power within the families who have corporate board members and corporate administrative staff as members of their family. It seems foolhardy to blunder forward with this bill without heed for those important lessons to be learned from ANCSA.
Mr. Lee, you've reached your 5-minute time limit, sir.
Okay, one more sentence. We need to learn from those lessons and find solutions that do not repeat those mistakes. We owe it to ourselves and all future generations to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony today.
Yeah.
Clerk Thompson, is there anyone else under views related to today's agenda?
There is not.
Okay, we'll now move to item 9 on today's agenda, and that's persons to be heard on items unrelated to today's agenda. Is there anyone in the queue?
There is not.
Okay, well, we'll move on to board, commissions, and committee reports. There are none listed today. No items on the consent agenda. Item 12, report of other officers. We're supposed to have a report from the Petersburg Medical Center CEO, Phil Hofstetter. I don't see Mr. Hofstetter in the room. So we will move on with the mayor's report, and if Mr. Hofstetter shows up, we could bounce back. So the mayor's report is fairly short today. We're seeking letters of interest. The Petersburg Borough is accepting letters of interest from citizens who wish to serve the community by filling one of the vacant seats on the following borough boards, commissions until October 2022. That is when the municipal election takes place. Planning Commission, 2 vacant seats. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 2 vacant seats. And the next item is we're seeking letters of interest for a short-term early childhood education task force. Residents from the following groups are needed: childcare educators, Petersburg Borough, Petersburg School District, Petersburg Medical Center, Petersburg Economic Development Council. And we did at the last PEDC meeting appoint someone to that position. So Chamber of Commerce, Share Coalition, Petersburg Borough Assembly, retail employees, and the public at large. The Assembly shall appoint up to 15 members to this task force at the May 16th, 2022 Assembly meeting. Letters of interest should be submitted to Clerk Thompson at the Borough office located at 12 South Nordic Drive, or by sending to Box 329, Petersburg, Alaska, 99833, or by emailing dthompson@petersburgak.gov. And last Monday, we had a farewell to the Anacapa. After home porting in Petersburg for over 32 years, the Anacapa has been relocated to Port Angeles, Washington, after a repower at the Ketchikan shipyard. With sincere appreciation for all the Anacapa and her crew have done for Petersburg and our neighbors over the years, we wish them fair winds, clear skies, and following seas in their new adventures. And I believe they departed Saturday afternoon, evening at some point. And we did give them a proclamation of appreciation at the meeting on Monday. So with that being said, it's time for the manager's report, unless there's any questions.
Mayor, I have one question. Thank you. When will I see in our correspondence, we had a letter from somebody wishing to fill in on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. When will we be filling that spot?
I'll make that appointment letter later in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
It's on the agenda.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, another note on the Coast Guard, the new cutter Pike, I believe, will be showing up in mid-June-ish. So, okay, Manager Giesbrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The library has received a grant from the Petersburg Community Foundation to purchase iPads for youth STEAM, stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math programming. These funds will be matched by contributions from Chris Norez and the Rasmussen Foundation. The library is currently seeking donations for our 2022 summer programs. Donations can be made online at psglib.org or at the library front desk. Upcoming classes at the library include a watercolor workshop with Pia Riley, container gardening with Andrea Weathers, and a presentation from the author of Gardening Near Glaciers. ADEC recently notified the Water Department of its standing as an URSA major rated utility for the calendar year 2020. This rating recognizes water utilities that provide excellent service to the community as demonstrated by excellence in reporting to the state. So congratulations to our water folks. Senate Finance Committee, co-chaired by Senator Stedman, held a hearing on the wastewater 301H permit issue on April 14th. Testimony was limited, but representatives from Anchorage and Ketchikan utilities did a good job of pleading the case of the utilities and communities. Reminder to the public that not all wood waste is accepted at the wood drop-off site. Limbs and small diameter logs less than 6 inches are accepted for free. Brush, stumps, large logs over 6 inches, and lumber with nails or screws are not acceptable materials at the site and must be disposed of elsewhere. NC Machinery mobilized to Petersburg on April 18th to begin the Caterpillar 399 overhaul. Project is going well and they anticipate completion and testing by last Friday, April 29th. Initial drafts of the Scow Bay generation study indicate that a 3.5 megawatt diesel is needed as the first step towards adequate standby coverage. And as Carl said earlier, our current inventory of transformers is being stressed by new construction this spring. It is highly recommended that customers that wish to receive a new service this year should talk to Power and Light as soon as they can to secure a transformer for their project. If the utility runs out of transformers, there'll be no chance of providing service to any new homes or businesses until January or February of 2023. Blind Slough Hydro progress. McMillan and Jacobs recently solicited vendors for all the long lead time valving associated with the hydro bypass piping at Blind Slough. The valves in question are being purchased ahead of time to ensure that they will arrive in conjunction with the powerhouse equipment this fall. They've sent license amendment packets to multiple stakeholders involved with the hydro relicensing effort, and we've asked for comments provided over the next 60 days. The 2 empty apartments on the assisted living second floor will be filled with, actually have been filled with independent residents as we continue to go through the staffing shortages in town. And our fighter new recruit class was canceled. Unfortunately, no one showed up. We had an outside instructor come to Petersburg for the wilderness first responder initial and refresher courses. Some were also dual certified as emergency trauma technicians. Sandy attended the spring emergency management preparedness conference and local emergency planning committee association and the state emergency response commission meetings in Anchorage from April 19th through the 22nd. Attendance is required by the state to be eligible for state and federal grants. Fire department invited the Coast Guard crew from the Anacapa to their monthly dinner on April 4th to thank them for their service and wish them well after the decommissioning of the vessel and leaving Petersburg. Thank you very much to the volunteers and the fire department staff for doing that. Transition to every other week recycling pickups is going pretty smooth with very few customer calls or complaints about the change in schedule. Public Works Director Kata, Sanitation Supervisor Aaron Merle, and Building Maintenance Tech Sam Jackson made a trip to Wrangell on April 26th to visit with Wrangell's motor pool, sanitation, and public works departments. We received some hands-on training on the operation and maintenance of the CSWA's new tire shear unit, which is currently located in Wrangell, but is being shipped to Petersburg soon. While in Wrangell, they also had a chance to examine their centrifuge waste oil filtration system, which is a step up from the process we use here in Petersburg, planning to implement a similar system for our waste oil stream at the Petersburg baler. They were also able to visit Wrangell's solid waste baler and transfer station and discuss baler operations and other solid waste issues with one of their operators and their public works director. Public works staff in Wrangell were very good hosts, and we had an informative and productive visit. We've invited them to tour our operations in Petersburg if they get an opportunity. Thank you to the United States Forest Service for the donation of a taser training suit. This will allow the Petersburg Police Department to implement realistic scenarios and de-escalation training with the use of role players who can escalate or de-escalate based on the officer's words or actions. Chief Kerr attended the CCAD meetings in Juneau. This meeting covered operational goals, MOUs, and the input from other member agencies. This past Saturday, April 23rd, in recognition of Earth Day, grades 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Girl Scouts cleaned up about 20 pounds of trash from the municipal building property and around the block. Just wanted to thank them very much for all that hard work. Got word from the Corps of Engineers, Alaska District Project Manager. You heard this from Glow, but that the South Harbor Dredge bid opening was successful. Competitive bidding between 3 contractors resulted in the award going to Western Marine for just under $4 million, included 100% of the borough's responsibilities. Corps received full federal funding for all those base items in the bid packet. The project will begin in October, and the harbor will be getting information out to users on schedule. And the Harbor Board met and reviewed the Papke's Landing conceptual drawings and agreed to send it back to the Assembly, advising them to get more public comments. And that's it, unless there's questions.
Questions of the manager on his report. Member Mucci.
Mayor, I have several for the manager. Is there an update on how we're doing on dispatch applications?
Jim, correct me if I get any of this wrong. So we've hired one person. We've got one coming towards the end of May that's already, we'll just need some refresher training that's coming back to workforce. And another one who's an application in process as we speak. I get them all?
Yeah, we have the one that's moving up. They'll be, they're getting to Wrangell, I think this week. And so we're gonna schedule time for them to come over next or whenever it works for them. The other one is an employee, previous employee that's moving back to Petersburg that's interested in the position as well.
Okay. Is there an update on our fire EMS applicants and that process?
Yes. We are involving the couple of members of the Public Safety Advisory Board, and they're working with Becky and some others to do some screening interviews and screening of resumes this week. Once we have the results of that, they'll get back with me and we'll schedule final interviews, a visit to town, and kind of a social event so the volunteers and folks can meet them. That'll be done kind of dependent upon the screening and the first level interviews.
Same kind of question to Mountain View Manor.
Almost identical answer. Got a group of people screening the applicants as we speak. We've got a very good candidate that is currently out of the area that we're trying to coordinate schedules with. And we don't know if she'll be here this week or if it'll be next. Becky's working that with Sheila as well. And hopefully they will be here. Then we can get an interview scheduled while they're here in town, and as well as any of the other candidates to get to a level of being a finalist.
Conversations with Clinton Haida regarding housing subdivision.
Yeah, it didn't go as well as I'd hoped. They don't seem to have the funding that they once had for a big housing project. So we did agree to keep working together. They are working very closely with PIA, and PIA was also on the call. And Chad's been working with, they received another $1 million grant from, I'm not sure where the source is, but Klingahide is also involved in that, but potentially building either a triplex or another duplex here in town. And Chad was working with Liz to identify a piece of borough property that might be sufficient. So we're smaller versions, smaller steps, but the big project is kind of on hold right now.
You mentioned the Harbor Board reviewed the Papke's Landing conceptual drawing, kicked it back to us. And what do we envision as a schedule of, several of us have probably talked to property owners out there who are a little beside themselves on just a basic thing, where the toilet is set up at in front of somebody's living room window. What should the public expect, or people out of Papke's expect, for some type of public hearing from the assembly? Are we just going to gather comments for the next 6 months and move forward with stuff? Or I'm trying to answer some questions for folks who had questions.
Sure. Well, I mean, everything's up to the assembly, but I mean, the way I'm proceeding with it at this point is the people that have talked to me, I've suggested that they follow the, conversation and put comments in. We really don't know what we're dealing with until we hear comments from everybody. Once we start to see that peter off, where we're not getting a bunch of comments, we're going to get together with Alan Murph again. We'll talk through things with him. And then, it's really up to the assembly, how much more money you want to spend with Alan to either redo everything, or is there enough money in his contract to do another rewrite on those conceptual drawings. And then if the assembly wants to do further public hearings, that is entirely up to the assembly. I mean, I don't have a plan on that.
Because in this year's budget, there's $40,000 for additional Papke's work
Not
on
that I'm
conceptual
aware.
drawing.
No, that was
Okay.
last year's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so it's up to the assembly just to come up with a timeline for however long we're going to accept comments, and then
Or at least give me instruction
Okay.
on how you want to approach it. I mean, at this point, I'm taking comments, and I think we need to give the community time to do that. The plans were just put out online, and we still have people that aren't even aware that, work was being done or considered being done.
all right, thank you very much.
Member Tremblay.
Thank you. Is it possible to print out, is it already printed out and posted out at the Papke's doc, the conceptual drawing?
We posted that they're existing, that here's the links to go get them. Here's how you can review them. It's a big document when you put them on maps, and it doesn't hang. We're afraid it'll just wash away in the rain.
Mhm.
So what we did is put out basically a document that says, like it's on the front door.
Okay.
It says, here's where you can get them. If people don't want to do that, they're welcome to come in here, and we can print them here for them as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the manager on his report? Thank you, Manager Giesbrecht. That brings us to unfinished business. First item there is ordinance 2022-05, an ordinance updating chapter 1404.420 of the municipal code entitled Water Rate Schedule and Fees. This is the second reading, which we just had a public hearing on this ordinance today. If adopted, ordinance 2022-05 will increase water utility rates, which have not been updated since 2018. The last reading, it was unanimously supported. I'd entertain a motion to adopt 2022-05 in its second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Member Stanton Gregor, seconded by Member Mucci, I believe. Any discussion on the water rate schedule and fees? Seeing none, clerk call a roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2022-05 passes unanimously in its second reading. That brings us to the next and last item under old unfinished business. Ordinance 2022-06, same type of ordinance, but updating various sections of 1408 of the municipal code entitled sewer utility. If adopted, it will increase sewer utility rates. I'd entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance in its second reading.
So move.
Second.
Motion been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Tremblay. Any discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mark, David,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chelsea, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ordinance 2022-06 passes unanimously in its second reading. That brings us to item 16 on today's agenda. New business. This is an ordinance. It's 2022-07. An ordinance adopting the budget for fiscal years July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2023. And there'll be, this is the first reading. We have two more readings. I'd entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance in its first reading.
So move.
Second. Motion been made by member Mucci, seconded by member Lynn. Any amendments to the proposed budget? Member Lynn?
Yes, I have two housekeeping amendments I'd like to make. The first one is I move to update the amount of the harbor budget for the South Harbor Dredge Project from 500,000 to 1.1 million.
Second.
Okay, and that was talked about in our budget work session, and that was mentioned by the harbor master. So, any discussion? Motion's been made by member Lynn, second by member Mucci to up the harbor budget to $1.1 million for the dredging. There's no discussion. Clerk call a roll on that amendment.
Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Jeff, Mark,
Yes.
Chelsea.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the first amendment. Any other amendments?
I do. I have one more, one more amendment. I move to update the account description in the Parks and Recs budget for account number 506512 from lap pool pump replacements to security cameras at the cemetery. And that language is on page 34 of your budget package.
I'll second.
Motion been made by member Len, seconded by member Mucci to change that budget item, I believe you would call it, to put cameras at the cemetery. Any discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Mark,
Yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, the second amendment proposed by member Lynn passes unanimously. Any other proposed amendments to our first reading of our budget?
I just have a question. On the portable restrooms that we have outside, we have $50,000 in the budget for those. Is that for somebody to clean them or how on that?
I can speak to that through the mayor. Actually, we just kind of took the marine passenger fee revenues and just stuck it there because we really don't know what it's going to cost us for the full year. But you are correct. It's for cleaning, it's for paper products, it's for water use, utility use, incidentals that may come up as far as maintenance on them. And as well as, transfer of costs, for example, the guys that set them up and everything. So this year we're trying real hard to get the full year in place with, transferring costs. So we know exactly what costs are associated with those. And then we'll have a better idea in the future how to budget for that. But we just, put the marine passenger revenues straight over for now.
And do we have somebody lined up to do that job or?
We do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I think the budget is good. I think you guys did a really good job on it, but I'm not going to vote for it in the first reading. And I'll give you my reasons why. Earlier this year, mainly in response to Chief Kerr's comments that he made in personal comments about the inadequate pay of the police officers. And we tried to address that issue, and we did address that issue by putting additional money in for the dispatchers. I think that was successful. I think we can see right now that by paying them more money, we got more dispatchers. And my hope was with the police department, but that would be an incentive for our existing officers to stay longer in the community. At the time, Manager Giesbrecht, and correct me if I'm incorrect, stated that we could solve he didn't want to solve the problem by just throwing money at it. And I agreed with that sentiment at that time. And what I had hoped that the Public Safety Advisory Board would also take a look at, which was the other component of that recommendation that I was trying to make, was to look at the scheduling. And I don't have any preconceived notion on this. I don't know whether we have enough policing coverage in town or too much, but I think it's worth looking at. I have had discussions with Assistant Chief of Police in Juneau, Assistant Chief of Police in Sika, and then a member on the Public Safety Advisory Board who has questions about how we're scheduling and thinks that there could be opportunities with the way we're scheduling to reduce the number of officers that we have. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'd like to take a look at it. And I imagine Jody can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you remove one position from the police officer force, you're saving $150,000, $160,000 a year with benefits, maybe more. Substantial amount of money. I also understand that we're also taking money. I realize the borough has a very high reserve amount right now, and I understand that we're going to be taking a little bit more money out of the reserves to balance the budget this year. So if at all possible, I'd like to see a way that we could do that to avoid using those reserve funds. I don't know whether it comes out of the police department. I don't know whether it comes out of another part of the budget. But I think right now we're in pretty uncertain times. I think our budget has been saved. And the ratepayers and the property taxpayers in town have been saved because we've got quite a bit of money from the federal government and from the state government through CARES funding. And I don't anticipate that money to be available like it has been in past years. So I think I'd like to see a very prudent approach to the budget this year. I think overall it is a prudent approach, but recognizing these things that are going to happen in the future, I think we need to be aware of it. We've had substantial rate increases with electricity rates. We just voted once again for the sewer and water rate increases, harbor rate increases. I really don't want to see in the future having to raise property taxes or even worse, sales tax. So I think we need to start taking a look at how we're going to deal with this going forward. So hopefully we can get some information before the next budget reading, and then I'll support it.
Through the mayor, if I may, it's just quite, I didn't really hear a question there. And I'm going back to when we presented the police changes to the full assembly, that included scheduling component. And I don't remember any questions from the assembly regarding that. That was a full blown write-up that the chief did. So that being said, we're at the disposal of the assembly. If you have amendments to make, you have your process. If you have questions, things you want more of, now's a good time to let us know.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do right now. Yes, no, I didn't feel like I had the answers to the questions at the time. And if my other colleagues on the assembly don't care to go down this route, I'm more than willing to, do whatever they want to do. But that's just a question I have. I think one way of looking at it is, at least from my perspective, is it's the largest component in our budget right now that comes out of general funds is public safety. And if we are going to try and hold the line on the increases in the budget, we have to start looking at different departments. And so to me, it's obvious that's probably one of the places to start. There's probably other places to start as well. But that'd be what I'd like to take a look at, because I don't think, and I can have this discussion with you, Steve, and between now and the next meeting, and maybe you can clarify my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be voting yes here in the first reading of it. Since we got the packet of the budget, I've poured through it. Borough manager and our finance director, Jody Tao, do I would say, a wonderful job of creating boring budgets. And yes, that's a very big compliment. Everything, it was member Kensinger just talking about thinking long-term. That's one thing I've always appreciated about Director Tao, is not just thinking 1, 2, 3 years down the line, but thinking big picture. And for the public, now they have a copy of the budget is online. I highly encourage anyone who is feeling so inclined to check it out, because the next meeting 2 weeks from now will be a public hearing for the budget. So I look forward to hearing from a public things I may have missed. That is all. Thanks.
Any other input on this ordinance? Member Mucci.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be voting in opposition to this budget in its first reading. Over the last couple of months, I've tried to get a better understanding of the amount of calls coming in and out of coming into the police department. And I was provided 127 pages of raw data that I'm trying to wrap my head around. I'm looking at the years that were provided for me was 2017 to 2021. And I'm just trying to go through each of those years and understand what the bulk of the calls are to the police department, and making sure I understand what's going on at the police department better than I do right now. So yeah, we'll have time to talk about it some more, but at this point, I'm not going to support it in this first reading. Thank you.
Any other input on ordinance 2022-07? I've got a couple of questions after going through the work session today and in different departments, and I'll look through it a little bit closer and see if I feel like, making a input at the second reading. But I'm looking forward to the public hearing and to see if we get any input from the public. But overall, I think it's a pretty good budget. I could see why things are going up. I mean, everything from not only are supporting this in its first reading. If there's no other discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the first reading of our 2023 budget.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jeff,
No.
Thomas,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
David,
No.
Bob.
Okay, the first reading of our proposed 2023 budget passes with 3 in opposition, member Mucci, member Kinsinger, and member Fine Walsh. So that brings us on to item B under new business, fuel and purchased power adjustment charge. Utility Director Hagerman requests approval of the Assembly to implement the codified fuel and purchased power adjustment charge located in the PMC Chapter 14.16.720 for all kilowatt hours sold during the annual SEPA electrical line maintenance shutdown, during which the electric utility must run the diesel plant to provide power to our residents. The adjustment has not been implemented for many years due to the application of SEPA rebates toward fuel consumption by the utility during the shutdown. However, the SEPA rebates will no longer be granted. So we need to somehow make up for the revenues we spend to keep the lights on. So I'd entertain a motion to honor Mr. Hagerman's request.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
I was just going to ask if Director Hagerman would mind briefly explaining this to the listening public so they can wrap their brains around what we're talking about, if that would be okay.
Yes, surely. So, so this issue has kind of been not an issue of recent years because of the CPATE or the rebate that we receive from SEPA on an annual basis. That rebate is no longer being offered to the communities. And what that rebate did for Petersburg is it pushed this issue off the table, in that any fluctuation in fuel costs that directly affected the revenues for the department during the annual 10-day diesel run when SEPA is doing maintenance on the transmission line, that volatility wasn't needed to be covered by a rate adjustment because of the rebate helped in that manner. And now without the rebate and the recent rewrite of the electric code, this provision for a rate adjustment is discretionary on the Assembly's part, and it needs to be approved on an annual basis by the Assembly. Right now, I think we're all aware of the extreme volatility of diesel fuel prices. The code was written as a result of the rate study that was done for the department, and the amount, the cost per gallon of fuel that was is in the code right now is $2.40 a gallon. That equated to the last diesel run that we had, at that point. Well, as of the writing of the memo that I put in the packet, we were at $4.27 a gallon. So that equates to about a $93,000 unanticipated hit to expenses during that 10-day run. And we've still got about a month and a half before we get to that run. It's the first part of June, actually a month. So prices could go up more. We're seeing it go up and up every week. So I guess to cut to the chase, this request is in front of the Assembly to seek the ability to calculate an adjustment to our customers' rates that would be implemented during the billing that comes out at the end of the month of June. And if the Assembly is amenable to that adjustment, then the department will start a public relations campaign, as was done in the past when this was an issue, to encourage all the customers in Petersburg to conserve as much as possible. So the less diesel we have to burn during that period of time means the less extra cost there is to spread out on the rates.
Thank you.
So I have a question go ahead, Bob.
No, I was going to go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Hagerman. So, and your adjustment will all reflect on your power usage on your meter. So, won't it?
It will. So we take the total unanticipated expense on diesel, which is any cost above $2.40 a gallon. And that is spread out among every kilowatt hour for every customer. So the adjustment, the formula is in the code. So the adjustment goes for every kilowatt hour that you use in that billing period. So not only if you conserve, we're burning less diesel, but it's just less kilowatt hours in general. So the conservation is a really important aspect for our customers during this time.
Well, at least it's in the summertime. You can just turn your breaker off and don't have to worry about it. Any other member, Lynn?
Yeah. When we, the Assembly agreed to put on the ballot and the folks passed a ballot measure to improve Crystal Lakes, we had money in hand to do some of that. And then also to, in the studies that were done, we needed to increase our diesel, our generating power on itself. So the reserves we have on hand are really, I think, pretty well tied up to take care of those things we've already put in. So where I'm at is I really don't want to pass this on, but I really think that we're at a point that we need to pass this and go forward at this point in time, because if we were to eat that $93,000, that just means we're going to have to replace it someplace else for the projects we have on hand, as I see it.
Any other input? Member Mucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I guess, a couple for Carl or whoever, but how much money does the electrical department have in reserves?
Jody, do you have that number?
Including capital projects before just getting $7.5 million in bond money, 6 million. But a lot of that is tied up in blind slew hydro and diesel standby generator. And just something else I wanted to say, when we used to do the surcharge, it will be a separate line item on your utility bill. So you'll see what you're paying with that adjustment.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other input on this fuel and purchase power adjustment charge? Clerk, call the roll.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes. Okay, item 16B under new business passes unanimously. Brings us to item 16C. Assignment of lease from Patricia McGill Stevens and the estate of Frederick S. McGill to Don Hughes. Patricia McGill Stevens and the estate of Frederick S. McGill currently lease Borough Tidelands located near the Mitkoff Veterinary Clinic. Seaward of T-1 and T-2 and T-3, Alaska ATS-9, is the location of the land. The lease terminates at midnight, January 31st, 2039. Assignment to Don Hughes is requested. Lease assignments are subject to assembly approval per municipal code, section 16-12 or .12.170 K and L. The assembly may place additional terms and conditions on assignment if they choose. I'd entertain a motion to approve this assignment to Mr. Hughes.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made with a second. Discussion. Member Lynn.
Just a question for the manager. I assume that the rates when that changes stay the same. Could, if we were to do a rate study on that, I'm not quite sure that's the right words, but would those rates substantially increase if the assembly chose to go forward with looking at the rates? If they approved it?
Thinking of a new assessment on the property for?
No, the annual lease cost is what I was looking at because that is updated every once in a while. That was my question.
I mean, the leases are periodically reviewed and there's a escalation clause built into them. I'm not sure I understand Bob's question.
the lease rate is by code. It has not been updated for many years. But it's set by code. So no matter even if it assigns from one person to another at this point, it stays the same until the assembly decides to change the lease rates.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Sorry.
Any other discussion on this change of lease assignment? Clerk call the roll.
David,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Thomas. Thank you.
Okay, that lease will be reassigned to Mr. Hughes. Item 16D, Senate Bill 3269, Unrecognized Southeast Alaska Native Communities Recognition and Compensation Act. Senator Murkowski has requested a hearing in May in front of the Energy Committee regarding Senate Bill 3269, Unrecognized Southeast Alaska Native Communities Recognition and Compensation Act. I have requested the Assembly determine whether to support or oppose the legislation in order to provide comment to the Energy Committee when the hearing takes place. And what I've heard is the hearing is potentially going to be asked for the second or third week of this month of May. So I thought this might be the appropriate meeting because we might not have another meeting after we hear that it's been requested and if they schedule it. So I'd entertain a motion to take action on this item.
A quick point of information or inquiry, Mr. Mayor. Since there isn't an affirmation one way or another in this action item, what happens if we put one forward and it fails? Does it mean we're just done? We take no action, or what's the process here? More of just a process question.
I would recommend or suggest that we make a motion to support 3269. And if we vote against it, since you're supposed to make a motion in the positive, if we vote against it, we don't support the legislation. Does this make sense? Am I answering your question?
Potentially so. Let's say we play that out and they motion to support and let's say it fails. That isn't the same though as like writing a letter against it either. It isn't really a formal action for the delegation. You follow my thinking now?
Clerk Thompson, I looked at this yesterday and I didn't really catch that. So we're not, what we're trying to do is either support or oppose the legislation. And then I would imagine letters would be sent. Is that in the, it's in the details?
It's not, but that's what we discussed, because I kind of asked the same thing. We don't have a resolution supporting or opposing. So my thought was you, as the assembly, would decide whether the letter we send will support or oppose the legislation. And the letter will need to be drafted later unless you want the letter drafted and brought to you at the next meeting.
But it might still be before the requested hearing with the Energy Committee, or it might be after. So
Right.
I felt we should take action before the Energy Committee had a hearing. And we've discussed this for probably up to a couple years now, this issue, or numerous times. And so if it makes sense to the assembly, whoever makes the motion, makes a motion to support this bill, and just to make a motion to get on the floor for discussion, then we could add.
I have a
letter.
suggestion.
Yes.
What if the motion were to write a letter in support of the legislation? You can then discuss, take a vote. If it fails, someone could make a motion to write a letter in opposition to the legislation.
The clarification I was looking for, if that would be okay in the process. Thank you, Claire Thompson.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to support writing a letter of support for Senate Bill 3269. And we'll get it on the floor for discussion if there's a motion.
Well, I would like to make a motion to write a letter to the Energy Committee and the delegation, et cetera, like we talked about, in opposition to Senate Bill 3269, expressing our community's opposition.
Second.
Saying that because I was under the impression you're supposed to make a motion in the positive, so.
And we tried, so
Yeah, so anyway, the motion's on the floor to write a letter of opposition to Senate Bill 3269 with a second from Member Stangray.
Thank you. I figure I'll take the lead since I put it on the floor. Obviously, as we know, this is a very complex issue. My stance is fairly linear and perhaps simple, but I have a real heartache with taking, for any reason, lots and lots of public land and giving it to private business with the sole goal of for-profit use. That's it. The goal of that land, if this goes through, will be to maximize profit. That's what that does. And I have too much heartache about giving our public lands to any one private business inside of our borough. So I will be voting to express my opposition to Senate Bill 3269.
Any other input? Member Kinsinger.
Well, I support the concept of helping our local landless constituents. The thing that I have real heartache with is the specific land that was selected. I'd have a lot easier time supporting this if it was one block of land, but it makes your head crazy if you look at all the selections they've made. And my other concern is if this does go through, you've essentially made it impossible for any type of timber program for the Forest Service to even have very small sales going forward in the future. So it's one of the few issues that I see out there where people that are pro-logging and anti-logging can probably get behind. So I'm gonna vote that we send a letter no on this.
Any other input?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. A lot of those lands that were selected, there's roads been put in, there's multiple surveys done. There's hundreds of millions of dollars into those lands that were selected, that were already put there. There were credits given to the timber company to put those assets there. Those assets were paid for by all Americans. And by supporting this bill, then we're not only giving the federal lands, we're giving all those assets away. One. Two, there's a lot of those roads that were never put into an easement of any sort. There was never any reason to. And so when you read the legislation, it doesn't say what you can do and you definitely can't have commercial activities. So if you have roads that pass through there, it's impossible, just impossible to have any kind of commercial operation. So yeah, I can't support it either for some of the reasons I mentioned.
Member Mucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the motion here we're talking about is just to have a letter prepared for the next meeting It's for tonight.
No, we're
It's for
voting
this
on it.
afternoon.
We're voting on it today is whether we're gonna
Yep.
send a letter in opposition of Senate Bill 3269.
You know, I'm gonna have a hard time voting to send this letter. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in the community who have something to say about this. We've seen 2 letters in the last 12 hours from folks who are opposed to that. But I think there's a large group in town who I think they'd feel blindsided if we went ahead and passed this letter in opposition to this legislation this afternoon without at least giving them the opportunity to come here and talk to us or call me on the phone. I just don't, I mean, we've been kicking this can around for a long period of time. We presented several questions, several pages of questions to the congressional delegation, and quite frankly, they haven't given us any answers to any of that stuff. And, you know, I have questions about subsurface rights on the Petersburg Borough. I mean, if we turn some of these lands over to a new entity, do we give up our subsurface rights to the island? And that's a big question that I think we need to be concerned about, or at least have the questions answered. And it's a real emotional issue in Petersburg, and I get that. And I want to make sure before I vote one way or the other on it, that I've had the opportunity to listen to the folks in town and some of the folks who are involved with it who don't live in Petersburg, but just hear what they have to say and, you know, see what we can do. I'm not trying to stall this thing, but we've been trying for several years to get questions, these answers. We all knew it was going to be before us eventually, and we still haven't heard any answers to any of the questions. So I won't be voting in favor of it at this point. So thank you.
Any other input? Yeah, I've got a little input. I agree with Member Lynn's testimony. There's the lands that have been, and Member Kent's here, the lands that have been selected have been all cherry picked, very valuable lands. A lot of federal tax dollars over the years have been put into these properties. They'll be turned over into private ownership. And I don't agree with that. As far as giving people time, we've talked about this for, you know, up to a couple years now, potentially, since, or maybe it's been a year and a half, whatever the time is, since Senator Murkowski first introduced this bill. And it's now going to be a hearing requested from one of her staff as told me, by the end of the month. So I think every other time we've discussed this, people have had time to pick up on what we're doing and attend the meetings or make comments. We've had, you know, I wouldn't say rooms full of people when we've discussed this issue before, but many. So I think they've had the opportunity to state their mind. So I'm going to be voting in favor of sending this letter. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Thomas,
Excuse me, the vote yes is to send a letter of opposition to Senate Bill 3269, just for clarification,
thank you.
and no is to support it. Okay, sorry.
Thomas,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
Jeff,
No,
Yes.
Bob, David,
Yes.
Chelsea,
No.
Mark,
Yes. Okay, we will send a letter of opposition to Senate Bill 3269 with members, I can't remember, Walsh, Tremblay, and Mucci opposed to sending the letter. So 16E, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board appointment. I'd like to appoint Casey Hammer to the Parks and Recreation Board without any opposition from the Assembly. She submitted a letter, so I'd entertain a motion to do so.
so move.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Clerk, call a roll.
Thomas,
Yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes. Okay, next item, correspondence. We have communications. We have correspondence received since April 14th, 2022, listed on our website. We don't read those, so they're there if anybody's interested in viewing them. Brings us to 18, assembly discussion items. Southeast Alaska Regional Dive Fisheries Association, SARPTA, the board seat nomination. Southeast Conference is seeking nominations to fill one municipal board seat on the SARFTA board. The appointment will be for 1 year. Nominated candidates will be interviewed by the Southeast Conference, and Southeast Conference Board of Directors will make the appointment. The nominee needs to officially represent our community, and the seat is intended to represent municipal concerns, interests versus industry needs and desires. If any assembly member has interest in the nomination or knows of a community member who can represent Petersburg's interest, approval of a nomination can be an action item on a future agenda. The deadline for nominations is June 30th. So that tells me it'd have to be at the next couple meetings. Nominations should include the candidate's name, email and phone contact information, a brief statement of interest in the SARFTA board seat and their qualifications. So that's what we're going to talk about and take action on at a future meeting if there's someone that's interested in the community. Any other discussion on this? So I guess we will, should we publicize this, Clerk Thompson, or?
I don't know, it's up to you.
Um,
I didn't know if you all had someone in mind from either the assembly or in town, so that's why it's a discussion, so you guys can talk about.
I don't have anybody in mind and I'm not interested, but if anybody is, could we just put a one-liner in the paper along with all the want ads for employees or for workers in the paper?
It wouldn't be a one-liner, but I'm sure I could put something small in there.
Is that acceptable to the Assembly Member Mucci?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's fine. I'm interested in sitting on that board and representing Petersburg. I've been dealing with SART for 20, 25 years, and I've probably surveyed every cucumber and buoy duck bed in Southeast Alaska, and I know all the folks on the SART board and most of the divers, so I'll be putting my name in there if that works out. But yeah, I think it's good to get a letter out to the community or a note to the community and see if somebody else is interested as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and then like I said, the selection is made by Southeast Conference Board of Directors, so. Anyway, put as many names in as the community wants to. So I didn't see any amendments to the Assembly agenda for any other discussion items, so discussion item part is over. And that brings us to Assembly member comments. Member Tremblay.
Thank you. Just wanted to let folks know we're having another informal housing discussion coming up on Wednesday at 10 a.m. This is a meeting, I'll be there as well as other members representing different government branches of local government and social service groups, nonprofit, and just general community members. So if you are interested in talking about the difficulties in the Petersburg housing market, and if you have any interesting ideas that you're hoping to bring to that group of people, please either email me or give me a call, 907-518-0590. My contact information is also on the borough's website. And, you know, we're all in this together. So we're trying to meet informally every couple months to just keep communication flowing smoothly and trying to see what we can come up with together. So let me know. It'd be fun to have more people join us. And it is, we keep it to a tight 1 hour. It's a lot of busy people with busy schedules. So if you want to just come sit in and listen, that's more than okay too. Thanks.
Any other Assembly members have comments? Member Lynn?
Yeah, just a reminder for folks to get, for the Assembly to get back to Debbie on having a work session with the hospital board. The whole, essentially, the only topic that is going to be on there is related to site selection of a new hospital.
Okay. Ramucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess as a question, how do we go about getting more Petersburg Borough property out to the public? It's kind of a rhetorical question. I know we heard earlier from Steve that he had talked to Lincoln Haida, and that conversation's kind of, I don't know if the right word is just, it's stalled, but as we saw earlier, there's need in the community for more property within the borough to be sold to the public. We already have platted right of way and roads and stuff throughout the borough. And what is the best way to go after this issue? How do we get more houses, or not houses, but how do we get more property out to the community?
Through the, I can try. We did this a couple of years ago, and Jody, remind me. And after looking at all the property, we came up with maybe half a dozen lots that are actually buildable. It's surprising. Folks think the borough has all this property, and we do, but very little of it is ready to go. You have the airport subdivision that'll take, Carl, help me out, 5-6 million? Am I probably, to before the lots could even be put on the market. You have other subdivisions in town that are similar. You have a lot of privately owned lots. The process that you saw today works pretty well. People approached the borough and said, hey, I saw this lot owned by the borough. I'm interested in buying it. And we went through this process. I highly encourage people that if they know of a borough lot that they're interested in buying, to approach, Liz downstairs or Debbie or me, and we'll help them through that process. Invariably, it doesn't happen very often. High value lots like on Sandy Beach get attention, but we don't get very many requests on people coming forward and saying, hey, the borough owns that lot and I want to buy it.
So Mayor, just a follow-up question. So if I was to bring a list of potential properties within the Petersburg Borough that had already platted roads on them and
Owned by the borough?
owned by the borough,
Mhm.
how would we go about seeing that process further along?
Correct, Debbie? It's just the assembly voting, putting it on an agenda and voting to say, please put these up for sale. Then there's a process we go through. It's in ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments by assembly members today? Any assembly members have recognitions? Member Stanton-Greger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a brief one, but an important one, in my opinion, since we've talked so much about childcare and education. Bears recognizing that the Alaska After School Network, and this award is legit. This is the real name, the Alaska After School Superheroes. We have 2 of them awarded here in Petersburg from Kinderskog. Both Becca Madsen and Katie Homeland were awarded this, and a great validator for the quality of childcare and after school programs we have that Katie and Becca provide. It's great to have some of your own recognized for excellence. For those of us who've used that program, we know it's excellent. So just a big shout out to Katie and Becca for their superhero skills. Thank you.
Any other recognitions? Member Tremblay.
Thank you. I saw high schoolers cleaning up on Friday, cleaning up garbage outside, and it was really nice. And so I'd like to encourage people to check out on their walks. I try to pick up 1 piece of garbage every day when I'm on a walk with my dog. It doesn't get you the same sense of satisfaction as a giant bag, but 1 piece every day really does add up. And if we all do even just little bits, it can really make a difference. So yeah, thanks for everybody for cleaning up the island as we get ready for summer.
Recognitions by assembly members or staff. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.